Hello, welcome back. It's time to continue with the room. It's so long past due. I apologize for anybody following along. Things just got a little too busy, but this is week 5. We should be able to pretty much get most of the detailing done here in the next couple hours, I would imagine. We need to add some light fixtures. We need to add details to the windows. We need to add a bookshelf over here along this wall. With some texture mapping, and we need maybe a table or two out here, and I haven't figured out what I'm going to put back here. It's kind of a weird space, to be honest with you. It's almost not something you would actually probably have, but whatever, we're just doing it to learn. So I guess just go ahead and get started. We can start with the window details, since that's pretty much the most boring of all of the things that we have to do. So basically, when you do these windows, it's the same idea. You can, depending on the level of detail in your trim, depends on what actually goes here. I mean, you could just have 5/8 square stock or rectangle stock if you wanted to around it, but since we have a nice crown up here, we could do some kind of similar molding maybe around it. Need a jamb on the inside. So lucky for us, that's already provided. If you remember from the first video, if you've really been following along that long, we can use windows even when we don't have a wall, and we just need to make sure we have a cutout, and we already have our cutout. So we can use these cutouts with the windows. So what I'll do is I'll give a standard here, down to windows, and casement window. I'll go to my window here, and the only problem with doing it this way that I have is, and that's actually, that's not even a problem anymore, because I can use my 3 snap here and snap to this opening and drag it straight down and to that other end of the opening. So we did the width, and then we can go into the depth, and then the height's last. So I'll hit S to turn off snap, and I'll just make it a certain height for now. Once I get that done, I'll just move it up here, and then I'll have to make it fit my window size. And that's not a big deal. It's usually best to let it go into your wall just a tiny bit there. That way you don't have light leaking through on the sides. So just adjust the parameters here. The depth we shouldn't really have to, I might even change the depth a little bit. Yeah, I probably will change the depth just a tiny bit so it's not so thick, to 3 inches or so. Obviously the height needs to come down to the opening. Right about. That'll work. Kind of just get it nice and even. Now, we're probably not going to be doing any close-up shots of the windowsill. All right, I'm not going to be rendering a shot from here. So, again, some people might frown upon it, but why waste time trying to make the window perfect when you're not going to see it? You know what I mean? So, don't waste time in those areas when it's not really important. So, there's our window. Now, the reason I don't like using windows is because of the window frame. And I don't like the window frame because I don't like to add glass. Because glass increases render time, and it's not really going to give us much to go off of. And I'll show you what I mean here. I'll keep the glass in for now, but that will change. So luckily all of our windows are the same size, so I can hold shift and just copy these here. I think 2 more copies here, instances. And then I'll just position them afterwards here. That window actually might be a little difficult because we have that frame there. Let's see. Yeah, we're not going to be able to do that with this one. Okay, so perfect example. We made an instance, right? So if we change the width of this, it's going to change the width of all of them. So in this case, if you've accidentally made an instance of something and you don't want to delete it, up here on the modifier list, you can right-click on casement and you can select Make Unique, and that'll detach it from the instance. So now if I change the width of this, it's just that one. So there is a way to break the instance. That's how you do it. So I'll just center this guy here. Oops. Okay, and I actually want 2 casements. Guess one's fine. Just leave that for now. And I'll move this one over here. Alright. So there's this wall. So if you also remember back, a lot of the stuff we're doing now we've already done before. It's just kind of repeat. But if you remember back to the multi-sub-object materials, the good thing about using the windows and doors like this, the reason I like to try and use them as much as possible, is they already have the materials for us, meaning Autodesk. So if I go to my materials, and I just find a spot here that hasn't been used, get material. I've been using V-Ray, so I get an error there. Select the browser, open material library here, and you need to go to where your program files are. Find material libraries. Okay, and what we're actually using here are MMark design templates. Or no, I'm sorry, we're using AEC templates. Okay, so I open that up and you'll see there's a window template, a door template, rail, stair, wall. So they've already separated the windows for us, so I can select windows here, double click on it. So it automatically has the IDs that already correspond to these IDs. So we don't have to do like we did on the walls where we set IDs for each individual polygon. It's already set up for us to do this if we use that AEC material library. So it makes it very nice for one to do quick things there. So I can just apply one, and since I made instances, it would apply to all of them there. This one's not instanced anymore. So we need to do that one by itself. Now, depending on what we want the trim to be, we have a white paint probably to match here. So all of these rails and front frames and such will just be our white paint. Okay, so I can just drag this down here. And anytime you do this, you want to do an instance. So if you change your white paint, it changes everywhere. So make sure it's on instance. Whoops. Okay, and for this panel, that's actually going to be glass. So they've had a panel right now, and we don't have glass yet. And we're going to actually end up deleting this, but I wanted to keep it to show you how we're not really going to be missing anything if we get rid of these windows. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and make a glass here from a default template. Thin geometry. Alright, and I don't like the fact that there's a lot of blue there, so let's that down. Okay, so alright. Alright, so got those windows in there. Make these other windows on the other side. Okay, so also at the same time, there are display modifiers. Like, we don't need to see these lights when we're not using them, they just get in the way. So to turn things off when you're not using it, you can go over to the display tab. And all of these things are by category you can hide. So if I want to hide the lights, I can check lights. Just notice there are gone cameras I don't need right now. Do that. Any helpers that I have, space force, particle systems, phone objects, and I don't really need shapes either, so I can hide all of that. That'll make it easier to select things there. And I'll just continue copying these guys. I'll make this an instance. I need to rotate it 90 degrees, so I make sure my angle snap's turned on. And I'll position this in here. This one's actually a little bit bigger, unfortunately, so same deal. We'll unlink it, make unique. And let's see where am I here. I'll change the width of this. And what I think I'll do for this one is I'll actually, so I don't have to change, I think the size of, well, no, I'll go ahead and move this one. But since I know the size is already going to be screwed up, I'll just not make an instance of this one. Just copy it. And for the last one, I can make an instance of that one. All right. So there's the windows. So the next step, I think, would be to add the window frames. Make sure these have the right materials. All right. Good. So we can't really use our crown profile, unfortunately. We might be able to modify it though. Let's see what it looks like here. We'll have to turn shapes back on. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just modify this existing profile that we have in here, whichever one you used. If you used one before, you can reuse this one. And what we'll do is we'll just get rid of some of these. Delete. And I will move this one up here. See, how's this going to go? I think what I want to do is delete some of these. Move this thing closer. I guess I want that one there. Okay, I don't really need this one. And I want to convert this by right-clicking to a corner to get rid of those Bezier, so that's a sharp corner. And it doesn't have to be super thin or super thick. I guess we could put a tape on this here. Under helpers, tape. Get an idea kind of how thick it is. So that's about a 1/2 inch. That's good. That'll work. So we'll just use this here. Obviously we could have traced a new crown, but to save time here, I don't want to retrace another one of these. So this will be our for around our windows. So what we need to do now, remember to do a sweep. We actually just need to create a rectangle the size of our window here. Do an opening, so we'll align that to the grids. Okay, and I will move this to the other side of the room. That'll work for now. I'll hit Z to zoom on that. Remember, anytime you have something selected, you can hit Z and that'll zoom. And I'll add a sweep modifier to this guy. Now, by default, it's got the angle here. Remember, we can use custom selection, and I can pick this guy. And that'll give me my window frame around there. That'll give me a nice trim around the window. Move it closer now. Okay, I can probably look and see where this is. It actually looks like it's on the right spot there, right here in the middle. Looks like the best option for that. So I'll leave that in the middle. Can't tell if it's more like a picture frame. I don't think I really want that. No, that's right. That'll work. All right, so, and I want to give that my standard white paint. And I'll just copy this down the way here. If you get it close enough on this other one, you can just do 2 copies and do an instance. You might have to do a little bit of adjusting on this guy. Okay, and this other one's going to be a little trickier because we have such a strange corner here, but it's no big deal. Just have to be comfortable with your 3 dimensions, so I'll just create a new line. And I'm not going to worry about it, again, being 100% precise here. And I'll just kind of rough that in like that. Okay, so I've got it in my top view here. And then what I'll do is I'll select that and move it to the top of my window here. Close to the top of my window, doesn't have to be exact. And then what I'll do is I'll hold Shift to make a copy of it. Make it a copy. Alright, so there's my 2 lines. Now I need to turn on my 3D snap and make sure that endpoint is the only thing selected. Select a new line here and snap from that to there. Okay, and then I need to make sure I attach those lines. So I'll go to Modify, select Attach, and I'll attach these other lines. And I need to weld them next. So after you attach, you weld. So I'll select vertices here, select all of them. Drag a box around, make sure you have to attach stuff there. Turn off Snap. That'll weld those together. Now I can straighten these up by moving the segments where they need to go together. Remember, you have to move the top and the bottom, or you'll get them messed up there. Yeah, I just did it after I just said it. I just did it. Oh boy. All right, so let's move this over here. And what I think I'm actually going to have to do here for right now is just hide this crown. Click on it and hide selection just to get it out of the way for now. That'll work for now. We can always obviously change that later. So I'll just add a sweep modifier to this guy. Let's select the right one. There we go. This crown sticks out a lot. This is really starting to look like window frame or picture frames, but I'm just trying to get the point across. Really, we would have to trace a new profile, and like I said, I don't really want to go through that process again. I'm going to keep doing new stuff here, so I think you get the idea, or at least I hope so. Or my time here has not been well spent. And we can copy these other ones again, like before, so I can just select one of these other windows here, or window frames. Maybe the computer just is wanting to be a pain, succeeding. Okay, so these windows are going to be a little bit bigger, so I probably shouldn't have made it the same size. So what I'm going to have to do is make unique to break that. Hit Z so I can zoom in again. So you can see the frame's not quite big enough, so I'll take a step back to my rectangle here. And if you'll notice, this was on because the model I was working on earlier, I wanted to keep it on. So this shows the sweep even though I have the rectangle selected. If that happens, you need to turn off the show end result toggle, and that'll take you back to your line. That turns that on and off, and Alright, there we go. So the window frames are done. Now if we wanted to go back, we could select these casement windows. If we wanted to add panels, we could add a second pane there. You could even open the windows if you wanted to. That's not really something you usually would do. I'll leave it with one pane for now. So I'm going to save this. And now that we have all that stuff in there, what I'm actually going to do, I need to bring back my crown. So I'm going to do unhide by name. Unhide that. And I'll go to my camera view here. And I'll render this now with the glass in the windows, and we'll come back after that's done. Alright, so that actually took, looking down here, the rendering time, 13 minutes. So if you remember, when I left this off last week, the last rendering took under 4 minutes, okay? And the only thing that we changed here, we added some molding around the windows, but we added this glass in here. And you can tell just by, there's certain jobs where you're going to want that reflection, but this isn't one of them. You can see there's hardly any benefit to having the glass in there, and it's increased our render time tenfold. So what I like to do is actually get rid of the panes and keep the frame, and you never tell the difference in most cases, unless, like I said, you really need that if you really need that frame, or I'm sorry, the pane of glass in there, keep it, but it's not something that's usually the case. So what I'm going to go ahead and save this. Remember to save your test renders. Actually, I stopped calling it test and started calling it progress the other day. I like it better. So they're not really testing these, they're just progress. So okay, so to get rid of these casement windows, we're actually going to convert them to poly. So I'm going to right click, or actually to make it easier on ourselves, I'll go to edit poly here and select face, and I'll select this window pane. There's going to be two of them because there's two sides of glass, so you have to do that twice. And I actually got that one as well. These other guys weren't instances, so we'll have to do those themselves. No big deal. Alright, so I actually even feel comfortable going ahead and rendering this now just to show you how much faster this should go now. So I'll render, I'll just let it go for a little bit here, but we'll have a good idea. I also noticed as this is going that over here where my memory use is being displayed, it's half of the amount that it was when I had glass, so it actually had just as much virtual memory as it did physical memory. Now it has half of that, so that's about halfway done. I don't need to let it go all the way. So we're at 50%, and we're at about almost 2 minutes, so I'm guessing this total maybe 5 minutes. So you can see the lack of glass, especially when we get our renderings to be even bigger. Substantial amount of wait time is cut out by cutting that glass out. I'll cancel this. Alright, so what I want to do next is add actually a bookshelf over here, I think I decided to put. So, just a regular old bookcase, maybe start it here and go this way or whatever. So there's a ton of different ways that we could make this bookcase. And since the bookcase isn't the focus of the room, you don't have to spend too much time on it, but you want to give it some detail. So you kind of have to think ahead of the different ways that we can make this bookcase. So we could start with a box and separate it into segments and extrude it. We could just do how it would be built and create individual planks of wood and put them together like a bookcase would be put together. And then I can't really say that any way is the best way to do it. I think the cleanest way to do it is to keep it all one object. So we'll probably just model a bookcase from the method of starting with a box and dividing it and extruding it and so forth. So seems to be the quickest solution. So what we'll do here is actually save your work, do a box, and looks like it starts about right here. I'll leave a little bit of room in the top in case I want to put a crown. And I'll go to the side of the camera shot here, overhang a little bit more, about there, and I'll rough that in there. Okay, so now that I actually have the rough dimensions for it, I can go ahead and isolate this thing. So I'll isolate selection. That way this is all we have to worry about. Okay, there's no point in keeping everything else when we just need to worry about modeling this bookcase. So I'm going to make the length an even 16 feet. Make this an even 11 feet. And the height here, which is actually the depth, okay, is going to be 15 inches. Okay, and we could go ahead and give it some segments to start out with. If we wanted to kind of sculpt this thing now. Need to turn on edged faces so that we see our segments. And a bookcase like this is probably going to have good amount of shelves. So if we had a 16 foot, or I'm sorry, 11 feet divided by 7, 11 times 12, 18, 19 inches per shelf, so we could probably do 8. And I'll give it some width segments. This thing's not going to be able to be one long bookcase without some supports in the middle. That looks somewhat proportioned. Alright, so we'll start with that. I like it. That'll work. So the next thing to do is actually turn this into an edit poly so that we can multiply, change it to objects. And what I'm going to do is actually select this loop here. The loop selects all the way around. I'm going to move those up because what happened? I want a base down here at the bottom. I'm going to move it up that high, and I want a top at the top. Maybe about right there. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing. Well, I'll just do it with these guys. So I'll select the little box to the right of connect there, and I want to give these sides, I want to connect it twice because I want to give this a thickness, and I want to give this over here a thickness. And the pinch will let me separate those. Okay, and I'm going to move these, so it doesn't have to be perfect right off the bat, but if you get in the habit of selecting things on the back side, you can scroll up here and ignore the back facing. That will keep you from selecting the things in the back by accident. Alright. Now what I think I'll do is I'll go ahead and clean these guys up, so I'll hit 2 and select these little guys. Hit remove. Now you don't really want to hit delete on your keyboard because if you hit delete, you'll see that it deletes that face. So if you want to get rid of these things, you actually have to hit remove over here, and that'll get rid of those. And you could probably hit ring here. You want to keep this one. This one, you don't want these other guys. Alright, so I want the... Actually, that's okay, that looks alright. We can work with that, that's... kind of give yourself a face frame here. You could probably bring these in a little bit closer, but this is all right for now. All right, so now it's time to push these other guys. So we need to select these. Actually, that's a lot. We need to select. So we want to go down through here, and we want to avoid doing stuff like this. Actually, you can see the line that's connecting those two there. That's not really what you want to do. So you have to have a little bit of patience. And do these one at a time. After we get through all these, you can just hit connect. You want to hit this every time you want to set up where you want your lines to be, but if it's going to be the same all the way down through here, there's no need in bringing the dialog box out. You can just connect these. And I think for this one, I only need to connect this one once, and we actually didn't need to do that at the top either. So again, this time I'll hit the dialog, and this time I'll just do one segment, and I'll leave it there in the middle because I can just move it up to where I want it. And like I said, again, you don't want to hit delete there. You want to hit remove to get rid of those. I need to go back to 2 segments there. And like I said, you could have made each one of these little shelves by little boxes and move stuff around. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 there. It's easier to remove, I guess, than to make those other ones. But like I said, you could have just made boxes. But that would have taken a long time, and then you have to align everything up, and then you have almost like this heavy object. If you do it this way, you have more control, and you build experience with modeling stuff. Even though it's boxy, like you'll gain experience with using connect and remove and stuff like that. So I recommend using this method whenever possible. All right, looking good. We've got our little face frames here. We can actually go around and select all of these ones in the middle now. You don't want extra segments lying around. It's cause problems later. Alright, remove those. Alright, so I think we're actually ready to extrude these back in now. So we can actually, on our edit poly here, select the polygon. I'm going to save it. And I'll select each one of these polygons here. Okay, and I'll come down here to extrude. And I want to go inside, right? So you don't want to go back further than your depth. So we made it about there is probably fine. And you'll notice here you have group normals by polygon. So you want to do that by polygon so that it extrudes individual ones. You can see if you change this to, I don't think we'll be able to do it here because they're so uniform, but there's going to be times where you're going to want to do it as a group of things, or you're going to want to do individuals. In this case, we want to do by polygons. So we can hit OK there, and that extrudes that back for us. Okay, so, and the idea of these face frames, and I don't want to get too far into this because It's not the purpose of this video. Maybe another one would, if somebody shows interest, maybe I can do another one. But what I would end up actually doing here is, if this was all about the bookcase here, I would select these edges here, and I would do a connect one, and I would move this guy up to give my face frame a thickness here, and then I would actually extrude this other one, this polygon. I'd probably extrude it down. So this polygon would get another extrusion, but this time it would go down. Okay, so that gives me a lip on my face frame. I get a lip on the face frame and it kind of sets down in, so you get the idea. And you know how some bookcases, sometimes they're angled, maybe like this. And you have to be careful doing this because it looks like we've got some bad geometry over here. So you have to plan for that. Like maybe instead of having that go down first, like that, we just take this up. You can do that if you want them to be angled or whatever. Like I said, you know, we could go into a lot of detail on this thing, and I don't think this is the place to do it. This is actually okay for the distance that we're going to be at, because if we exit it, remember, we've got all this other stuff going on too. So the detail in the bookcase may be of importance at some point. Now we can even improve our shot here maybe a little bit. I like this view, so I'm going to save this for maybe later. So create camera view, and I'll call this one maybe later. Okay, so then I can go back to my money shot here. Yeah, I like that. I think I like the maybe later better. Let's just switch to this one. Yeah, good. Okay, so maybe I'll zoom in just a little bit because there's, whoops. Alright, so this is my maybe later view here. Change this back to perspective. And what we need to do now is I'll isolate this again. We have to start giving this thing some texture. So this guy is just going to be a wood texture, so we'll see what's available to us. Satin varnished wood. It's giving us a map here of beach flooring. I'm not digging it, so I'm going to actually go to I don't know why I typed cherry. I don't even like cherry. I guess it's just because it's so popular. Popular. You have to be really careful when you pick your textures. Even though it's a bookcase, so that kind of helps because it breaks it up a lot. But we need large textures for one. We could actually probably get away with doing a couple different textures if we really wanted to. But I think what I'll do is maybe steal this guy. That's beautiful wood. I love walnut. Alright, so Let's see. Not WVU. Web videos. Alright, so instead of using this beech wood that they're using, we're going to use walnut. And we're just going to apply it straight to it. Make sure you use real world scales turned off. We want to see the texture, so we need to turn on show shading material and viewport. Okay, and you can see it's tiny little boxes, so that means if you're on top of your game that we need to add a UVW map, and you are correct. And we need to make sure our real world scale is turned off. Now we're getting somewhere. This is a box shape, so we need to change this to box. And, you know, there's going to be books and stuff in here, so we really need to worry about the places we're going to see the most. I want to steer away from that kind of deal. See, this is why wood's so hard, because you get these texture lines here, and we could take the time to make our Photoshop materials larger, and we'll get there maybe in a later video, or if we don't, and somebody requests it, maybe I'll do a video. But for now, we're just going to stretch it so that it's stretched and looks kind of grainy. And it looks like the grain's super huge down here. So I'm going to try and compress that some. We'll go with that for now. Okay, so I'll exit the isolation. And I'll save this here. Next step is to add some books. So again, I'll go back into isolate selection. And to add the books, same deal. So what we're going to actually do here, we're going to add books from left to right, since that's what's in the picture the most. And now for the books, it's kind of the same idea. You could write scripts. When you get really good, you can write scripts to do this kind of stuff for you. Unfortunately, we kind of have to do it ourselves for this video. So what we'll do is we'll just make a really long box here. And we just want one height segment. We want as many books as we're going to have here. We'll separate this. And we only need, we only need one segment there. So however many books you want to put in this stack here. And then what we'll probably do here is add an edit poly modifier to this guy. And we want to make sure we select the the loop here, so that it selects all the way around the book. And we want to adjust the spacing between these things so that they're kind of at random here. So again, remember to hit loop. Now, it doesn't really matter too much because what we're going to do is we're going to apply a texture map of a bunch of different books. But we want to actually physically change the height of some of these so that we don't have static books. I've never been to a library where all the books are the same height. And honestly, I've never really been to a library where they're all standing straight up. So it's kind of something else that you have to think about as well. So maybe this last book here, I'll give those a little bit of angle there. All right, so then what I'll do is select these polygons individually here, and you can see you don't really want to move them straight down, so what you actually have to do is use the extrude tool again. Well, that's not going to work either. What was I thinking? Okay, so what I think I'll do is I'll select the top of all these. It's not going to work either. Instead of making them smaller, I'll make them bigger. So every other one or every so often here, just make them a little bit bigger. Alright, that'll work for that first round. Some big books, but that's alright. So now what we do is go back to good old Google, type in book spines. It's best to work with large images, so this kind of has the height difference that we're going for. It's be interesting to see if we can work with this without using Photoshop. So name my material here bookshelf for the wood. And this will be books 1. We'll have to do some different book spines. I don't want to use the same one over and over again. Okay, so we would want to clean this up in Photoshop, probably, but since we're trying to avoid that for now, we can go into View Image here, and we want to at least get rid of this wooden book frame by dragging this red line up to the bottoms of the book. Okay, and that's good. So then you just close this, and then you need to hit Apply here for that to take effect, and you want it to be on crop. And then we'll apply that to those books. We need to turn it on so that we can see it. And again, we need to add a UVW map. Box. Turn off railroad scale, and you can see there it's choppy. I mean, we're not actually right on. And the purpose isn't for it to be perfect. These are kind of off in the distance, so we can scale this in a little bit to make it a little more believable. And get rid of this blue book over here. That'll work great like that. I like it. Okay, so then what I could do, oops. Now that you have this one here, you could make copies of it. And you could use the scale tool to experiment with that to see if you can get scale, and then maybe we mirror this one so that it's the other way. And maybe we scale it down just a little bit. A little bit. Okay, I'm just experimenting here. What you might end up having to do is actually get a new map for some of these so that it's not the same thing over and over again. But just to get an idea of what we're looking for here, I'll take a break here and render this. So exit isolation here. And render this, and I'll come back here in just a second. Alright, so it's all done. Took 11 minutes. It took 11 minutes because I think I accidentally, when I created the material, didn't check to see if it was a glossy material. And you can see, actually that wood satin even has a lot of gloss on it here. So it's causing noise, and it looks like maybe even my book material had some gloss because it looks kind of washed out. And I'm a little off of the wall here. I'm a little into this guy. No big deal, these kind of things are just through the steps, but you can see without my glass here, it still looks okay. These artifacts are just caused by lower render settings. Remember, we'll adjust that later. But interesting enough, I've got my lights here in this new camera view, so all of those are showing up, so that's good. I'm not super happy about the perspective. I might tweak that a little bit so that it's not so, you can see elongated here. So there's a little too much perspective going on when this kind of stuff happens, but that's okay, that's fixable. All in all, I think it's starting to look pretty decent. I think what we'll do, I would like to focus on a nice set of tables, like make this maybe a little coffee place and maybe a couple lounge chairs with a little table in this area. So maybe for this video, what I'll do is I'll make these changes that I just listed here, and then we'll work on looking for a light fixture that we can make for up here, and then we'll call that a day, and we'll use the last video to make this table and make it nice and cozy scene or whatever. And, you know, we could really do better than this texture. Like I said, that's going to involve Photoshop, and that's not the scope of this video really. So we're going to end up saving that for later. I just have to live with that, but that's okay. So I'm going to make my list here on my little post-it notes of what needs done. The bookcase material, book material. Both of these are too glossy. Perspective, bookcase location, and let's see, light fixtures. All right, so we'll save this test progress render here. This is 0201. Close that. All right, so first things first, I'll go ahead and select all of this stuff here. And I'll move this down and back closer to the wall. All right, check. And I want to check my materials here. Put a checker up here so I can see. So yeah, you can see how glossy my books are here with the checkered background. See this gloss? That shows me that my books are glossy. That's unlikely. To pull up this other guy here. Bookshelf should be somewhat glossy. You know, that's not bad. I'm not sure why we're getting the effect that we're getting. We're going to have to drop it down some. The books are definitely a problem. So the books should not be glossy at all. So remember the reflection here, 0. That's good. We look at it now. No checkers now. So the book should be brighter in the next rendering. So we've got a reflectivity of 0.7. Glossiness of 0.5. That's why. Whenever your number is down this low, by default they have this set at 18. So whenever this is down to 0.5, let's say that this was at 1. All right, let's say this was 1. Okay, when it's 1, it's really glossy. Like, you can see how glossy that is. It's like burning a hole in it almost. Okay, when it's really glossy like this, it doesn't need a lot of detail because it's not really smoothing itself out. But each time that I drop this glossiness, you'll see that specular will spread. Well, I turned it all the way down there, but let's go back to 1. So if I hit 0.9, the dot will get a little bigger, but it'll be a little less. It'll be a little more blurry. 0.9, then we go down to 0.8. See, it's stretching it out. You get a little blurry. 0.7. A little more blurry. 0.6. A little more blurry. 0.5 is what they had it at. Now, when a computer has to figure out from this point to this point, and it has 8 samples, that's not enough. 8 would be okay if this was at 1. So since we're down to close to 0.5, I would feel more comfortable with this being at 0.4. Okay, and now it's going to increase render time, of course, by making more samples, but it's going to make that much smoother, and we should get rid of those dots and artifacts that we had there for the most part. And I think even still, with the reflectivity of down to 0.7, I think that's a little high for what we want, so I'm going to make that 0.85. And I'll drop my glosses down to 0.4. All right, let's try that for that material in the next rendering and see what happens. So I'll save this guy. Okay, so that leaves us pretty much just for the light fixture. So what I'll do for the light fixture is I'll save this and I'll actually go to File, New, and create a new one. And I'll zoom extents on all the windows here. And we need to go back and we need to actually find a light fixture that we want to make. Maybe we try Artemide. I think my internet's out. Music stopped playing here. There we go. All right. Alright, so let's not make it too difficult on ourselves, but let's learn something. So, I don't even know if I like any of these. It's tempting to do a chandelier. It's almost... Internet service, that's funny. I haven't seen that in a long time. Man, it looks like the light industry needs some help. Maybe that's what I'll do for my career, design light fixtures. I don't know. I guess we'll just pick something here. I don't want to spend too much more time looking for lights. See what pendants they have. These are interesting. They've had these for a while now. Alright, this will work. So, pretty easy light to make actually. So, I think, didn't we already make this? I think we already made this. Maybe not. Oh well, whatever. So, 9-inch pendant light, so I'm guessing that's 9 inches at the opening down there. It'd be nice if you could find specs somewhere on the actual light. There we go. Alright. So, don't have to be super detailed on this, but so we have 9 inches by 7 3/4. So we'll start with that. Start with changing my grid spacing to 1 inch. So again, 7 3/4 by pretty much 9 inches will make it. So I can roughly go up to 7 3/4. Hold shift to draw a straight line. Maybe stop in the middle. So just like that. Again, this, we could bring in a picture and probably trace this if we really wanted to, but I don't really think it's worth it to set all that stuff up for something like this. So I need to make sure that this segment here, see, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 3/4. There we go. And then 9, so this is 4.5. 1 2 3 4.5. So we're actually pretty good with that. Okay, and you can see that this guy actually stops about here. And we'll select spline here. And we'll outline that. 0.125, I guess. Oops. Negative 0.125. That'll give us a thickness. And this guy, might as well alright, once you get that, you can add a lathe modifier if you remember. I think we did make this in another video. That's alright. Okay, the way that we have this set up, we want it to go off of the axis here, in the middle, like this, close to it, and that'll be perfect. Okay, so there's our shade. Yeah, it's like we just have a piece of metal here or something in the middle. One thing that we want to make sure we do on our lathe here is we want to step the segments up to 32 so it's nice and smooth. And we can just do a regular cylinder here. Okay, and that looks like okay, it goes all the way out. I want this to be 32 as well. Alright, and what I'll do is just make another copy of this guy. We'll leave the radius at the same size for the middle. The only difference this time is we actually have I want to make sure this is in half on the axis here, so I'm going to move this half of 0.125. Make sure you put inches in there though. Just like maybe 0.375. So this computer is really starting to tick me off. I'm going to put this in inches so that hopefully the next time I type 3 and 23/30 in here, it doesn't make it feet. There we go. Alright, so these need to be the same size. And I need to do an array around here, so my point here needs to be moved. Edit working pivot. It's perfect, right where it's supposed to be. So edit working pivot, I need that to be at 0, comma 0, comma 0, and it is. I select use working pivot, so now my pivot's in the center. So now I can do an array. Right click here and do extras. Array. And I want to rotate. Let's see, the easiest way to do this, looks like there's 20 of those things or so, so 20 in here. Preview it, see they go around there, so it's good. There's our little guys. Actually, I'm sorry. Before I do, I'm going to undo that. Before I do that, I want to modify this box and give it its little fillets. Give it our curve there, adding a chamfer to it. Now we can do an array, so we don't have to do it to each one of them. There we go. Alright. So the last thing to do is add a wire, and we can do that in the actual model. So I'll save this. Go ahead and add a material to it here. Their fins are showing to be a little thinner. I'm not going to worry about that right now, necessarily. Go back to the room file, and we're going to import, merge, plate file. I'll select all of it. I'll select this all the way down to here. Okay. Same name, you just hit auto rename. And I'm just going to group this together while it's here, so I don't have to worry about chasing all the parts everywhere. And reset the pivot since we're done working on the center point. And I'll just hold shift to make some copies. Instances, I guess. I don't think I'm going to do anything crazy for the cord. Just a cylinder. You could do a sweep, make it curve if you wanted to. I'm not going to get into that right now. And you don't need this thick of a cord. The radius of this thing, you know, it's 0.0625 or something. Apply the material to it now. Black paint will work for something this small. You're not going to see any reflections or anything. Actually, I might make this a little thicker, 0.125. Alright, I think this is actually a good, I'm going to turn on my camera here, render it, and this will be it for this video, and we'll finish it up. Like I said, the next time I'm going to go ahead and render the, let's see, I can fix the perspective on this other one. So do that with pulling this back a little bit here. And I can move my camera in. Alright, so alright, we'll see what that looks like. I'll let this render and we'll be back in a second. Alright, so it took about 15 minutes. A couple changes I had to make while it was rendering. I happened to notice that I had my final gather checked here. That's not good. Since we've created all this new geometry, it needs to come up with a new final gather. So you need to make sure that you're not reusing final gather if you're adding new geometry. So I was able to uncheck that and re-render it. I also boosted this gloss reflection precision up to 1.5. And if you remember in the materials for the wood, I boosted this up from 24 to 32. Still getting a little tiny bit of speculation here, but or specular reflection here, but it's getting better. These rails are super wide. You know, these shouldn't be this wide, really. What else? I don't like these lights at all. So what I think next time is what I'll do is take these out and put some kind of wood walnut wall type cabinet maybe up above here so the wood carries over. I don't like these lights at all, so they're going to go first thing on the next video. But we're making good progress here. We're really filling this place in. So, you know, maybe a couple more videos and this thing should be pretty well complete, and then that'll finish the Max series and I'll be able to move on to AutoCAD, or it probably will be AutoCAD. So I will see you hopefully next week. If not, it will be coming. If it needs to come sooner, you can always try and push me, send me a comment. I'll try my best to speed things up.